Everyone, I do see that the time is 6 p.m. Welcome to the regular city council meeting of May 21st, 2026. Aubriana, if you could please call the roll.
Yates.
Here.
Mangum. Nichols.
Here.
Paulson.
Here.
Satterfield.
Here.
Swanson.
Here.
Dahlquist.
Here. At this time, I would ask you to please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Right after that, if you'd please remain standing as Pastor Jonathan Dinger, representing Grace Lutheran Church, is here for the invocation. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for the opportunity. This is our last day of school at Grace Lutheran, and so I'm going to have a prayer for kids in schools, all our schools throughout the country, throughout the community. So let's pray. Gracious Lord God, Heavenly Father, we thank you for the joy and the privilege it is to see children in our schools, every school, District 25, in our schools at Holy Spirit Catholic Church, at Grace Lutheran, and those who homeschool their children also, Lord. We're thankful that we have the opportunity to choose those options. And our goal always, Lord, is that kids would grow just as you have designed, with the gifts, the capacities, experiencing joy and development. And we give you thanks for our teachers in every setting who work so faithfully and so tirelessly out of love for kids to see them grow and develop. Lord, as they seek to obtain wisdom, we also always pray for that in city leadership as we try to act with wisdom. And so we ask your blessing in that manner as well. So Lord, as school ends, we pray that you keep us safe, renew, refresh, restore, and help us give thanks. Pray it in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 3 is the consent agenda. The following business items may be approved by one motion and a vote. If any one member of the council so desires, a matter listed can be moved to a separate agenda item. But before I call the vote, this is the last meeting of the month, and we've asked our treasurer, CFO Rich, he's going to give us an overview of financials year to date.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, even the astronauts couldn't figure out Microsoft when they went to the moon, so don't worry.
I'd be much better with a
we'll
halter and
excuse
some
you.
reins. That would be, I could get it to do whatever I wanted to, but I can't
true.
see the,
They had to call these.
Is it not on the screen there in front of you? I take it. Didn't duplicate the screen.
it's not up there. Is it some, because it's not showing my type. Let's go here and do all. That's what it is. Nope, it just says works up. So how do I get this? Sorry.
Sure, yeah, and what I'll, since I have a long reading, I'll at least go through A through C. But to continue on the consent agenda, A, minutes. Council may wish to waive the oral reading of the minutes and approve the minutes from the following meetings. Clarification and regular city council meetings of March 19, 2026, and special city council meetings of May 7 and 13, 2026. B, material claims. Council may wish to approve the material claims for the period of May 1 to 15, 2026. C is treasurer's report. Council may wish to approve the treasurer's report for March 2026, showing cash and investments of March 31, 2026. Tried to buy you some time there, Rich.
It popped up and said there's a problem with the drive. I wasn't having that problem in my office.
Yeah, and even if you'd like to, if that doesn't work, I think you have hard copies for us here. Just
I
if
have one.
you'd like, you could just
Oh,
give
do you
the,
have? No, I don't.
yeah, I may not have, I have this right here.
That's not it.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah, oh, we have the
Which is
chart.
this?
Yeah, in front
Yeah.
of us.
Those are the reports. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I was so excited. Yeah, see, it has this wage scale, but it doesn't have the other. Okay. So the treasurer's report, why are we here? It's Idaho Code, Title 50, Section 208. The treasurer must provide a monthly financial statement of the treasury's condition, including receipts, disbursements, and balances at a regular meeting of the city council. So we're just meeting Idaho Code's requirement. We can do that in several ways, and I've been asked to do a short presentation on the second council meeting of every month. We'll get this fixed, and I can show off my,
Next time will be good.
not my very good PowerPoint skills, I guess. But this is the report that we're talking about. It shows you a beginning balance, it shows you the receipts, it shows you the disbursements, and it shows you the ending balance. So for example, at the bottom of this report, you'll see city as a whole, we had $119 million of cash on hand. The receipts for March were $14 million, our disbursements were $15 million, and our ending balance was $118 million. This breaks it down by fund. That is one of the requirements. That's why I like this particular sheet. When we hand this to you, we've met the requirement of the statute. I was just going to point out operating funds and inter funds, because those are the ones where most of the action happens, like the general fund, street, recreation, cemetery, airport, library, transit, sanitation, water, wastewater pollution, information systems, fleet management, and fuel. Just if you're looking at that report, the biggest decrease is in the general fund. That's probably not unusual. It's down $3 million. You get your big revenue quarterly and semi-annually in the general fund. The biggest increase was that $1 million in water pollution control. So nothing really jumped out at me. I was going to point out too that in cash management, what we do every Monday morning in our department is we look at the bank balances. Our main bank account is at US Bank. We have the main bank account where checks go through. We have a sweep, very standard procedure. We have about $10 million in that sweep. We have about $500,000 in the standard account. As checks come in, those monies bounce back and forth to make sure that nothing goes unpaid. We also do keep a balance at Wells Fargo because we have our credit cards with Wells Fargo. That's part of the agreement that we have with them. Wells Fargo is very good with their P-card credit card program. I think it's best in the nation. We're doing really well there. So those three accounts add up to $11.5 million. We also have a large sum of money, $64.8 million in the LGIP, the Local Government Investment Pool. It's run by the state of Idaho. Most municipalities participate in that, but we have taken one other step in our investment procedure, and we have money with Zions and Clearwater. Right now, that's at about $40 million. And they're doing a great job. I have really enjoyed working with Garrett and Clearwater. So if you add those up, the money in the US Bank, the Wells Fargo, the LGIP, and our Zions Clearwater accounts equal that $118 million. I was just going to quickly touch base on two other things. This is the monthly update that I give you. The first three columns are the revenue. If you look at the revenue, the first three columns, we have $77 million in the first half of the year that we've collected. We're expecting to collect $151 million. That's 51%. We're right on track. And that shows you on this report, right on track. You can go through this report and see that by fund as well. The columns 4 through 6 are the expenses citywide. You can see 70 million. We've spent 70 million over the last 6 months. We're expecting to spend 169. That's at 42%. That's a nice sweet spot to be in halfway through the year. We're just not quite up to the 50%. It's a great it's a great way to be sitting and looking at something you've got to manage and come in at 100%, right? So we're doing really well there. The one thing that I do want to add to this report that I will bring to you next time is most of the time people will look at a summary of budgeted revenues, which is the first column, and then the actual expenses, which is the fifth column. Because you're looking at what you expect to do over the entire year versus what you have done. That's not on this report, but so far we're expecting to bring in 151. We've spent 70. That's at 46%. Still a really nice sweet spot to be in at this point in the year. All right, I had talked to the mayor. This was the last thing I was going to go over. I'm trying to go really fast. I think my timer is probably up. But so we wanted some financial performance metrics. I picked 5. We can always add, subtract, look at things. Most of these metrics will be meaningful to you if we keep them in front of you month after month or year after year so you can start to do those comparisons. The first one was the debt per capita. The debt per capita metric, it's a debt per population. You probably are most comfortable with this when it comes to the federal government. You usually hear about how much each person in America would have to pay off the debt of our federal government. Well, we have that number for the city. Pocatello's debt right now sits at 61 million. It's about 61 million and 0.4. The census for 2026 is 59,129. So Pocatello's debt per capita ratio is $1,050. That's not really a helpful number unless you have something to compare it to. So Idaho's average is $3,500. We're doing really well compared to the average. Industry guideline is actually $1,500. So we're even doing really well that way when we're talking about a debt load. The next one I was going to introduce to you was a personnel cost ratio. This is when you take your wage and related expenses to wages divided by your total expense. So our total wage and wage-related expenses this year is $70 million. I am rounding, by the way. Our total budget was the $151 million. So Pocatello's personnel cost ratio is at 46%. Again, probably doesn't mean too much unless you have something to compare it to. Idaho's average is 30%, and the industry guideline's 35%. So our personnel cost ratio is high. The general revenues per capita, I say general because I looked at the total revenues per capita. Most of the time we are focused on the general fund or the governmental funds. So I took that, the general fund, which means instead of the 151 million, we're talking about 49 million. We divide that by the census, and Pocatello is averaging about $845 per citizen to fund the city. Idaho average is $1,131, and industry guideline is $1,450. You hear a lot about how expensive government is, but when you do some calculation like this, it should give you some comfort that yes, we need to be careful with the money we take every dollar, but we're doing a good job. We're below those averages. The budget variance, operating and maintenance, divided by total budget. Our operating and maintenance budget is $80 million. The total budget, again, $151 million. Our budget variance is 54. If you compare it to the average, the average is 70, and the industry guideline is 65. I want to point out, this is why a couple of weeks ago when I told the department heads we're trying to keep this budget flat, that not literally, but there was a come apart in their minds. We can't do this. Because this 54% tells you that they are doing more with less. And we really need to look at how we can make some adjustments between the personnel variance and our budget variance. All right, last one. It just came up last time. I threw it in there, bond rating. There's 4 categories that we fit in 3. A AAA is probably not something that's realistic, a realistic goal for a city the size of Pocatello. That's something that usually happens with federal or state-sized entities. But AA is something that we could strive for. It's very high quality. We are a AA3. That's our bond rating right now. And it's good. It's good. Why does that matter? If you guys ever want to go to financing, that's what's going to set your interest rate. So that's all I've got for the treasurer's report. Yes.
Could you give us a brief summary of what our debt is for?
You bet. That's a really good question. Oh, you know what? I forgot again. Why didn't anybody call me out on that? By the way, Rich Morgan, Pocatello Finance. Thanks for the opportunity, Mayor and Council. I always forget that part. I marked it right here. We have the long-term debt at the city is, well, let's see, right here. We have 2 revenue bonds. Speaking of, one through the Idaho Bond Bank. We are going to pay that one off here in June. That's what's on. But we also have a wastewater bond. We report a general obligation bond for the animal control. We also include in that pension liability. That is not a hard number. That is a number that is required by GASB, generally accepted accounting standards. So that's part of that. We do book our compensated absences. So anybody who has a bank of vacation or sick, that is part of that. We do split it in short and long term. Short term being the current year, long term being anything over that current year. And we have a couple of capital leases.
Okay, what's the largest percentage? If you look at
The
the pie,
largest-
what's the biggest slice of the pie, the debt pie?
It would be the business type revenue bonds, that water bond and the sewer bond.
Okay.
We're almost done with the animal shelter as well. It's getting really close.
Thanks.
You bet.
Okay, yes, got
Mayor,
another
I-
question.
I apologize. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
Councilman Bates has a
Just
question.
quickly, since you brought up Clearwater, between LGIP and Clearwater, how much is with LGIP and how much is with Clearwater? And then I know it's not been a whole lot of time, but how is Clearwater's performance compared with LGIP so far?
It hasn't been probably enough time to really give a clear answer to that question, but we have 60 million in the LGIP and 40 million with Clearwater. The overall plan is to be at 2080. We've done 2 transfers of 20 million apiece to get us to the 40. The overall plan was to do 2 more, so it'd be 2080. I asked them this week for a 5-year projection. I'm really excited about this OpenGov thing. Oh, I have one other thing I was gonna mention, but I think we can start getting ideas for annual budgets like 3 and 4 years out into this OpenGov. So I called them and I said, would you guys be willing to give me your projection on interest? And they did. It does look like their rate is going up for the next 4 years. We're at a 4 now, and at the end of the 4-year period that they sent me, it was 4.7. So that's a positive thing. At least it's going up. I was going to just mention too that we have finalized the audit for '24, and we will be presenting it to the audit committee. And I'm really, really excited about that. So we'll distribute that to you guys as soon as that's been accepted by the audit committee. And we have our auditor in place to start fiscal year '25, and we hope to have that one done by August, end of August, so.
And I'd like to really publicly thank Rich for really pressing the accelerator pedal to get us up where we're making like great progress with audit deadlines and being where we need to be. So thank you for all your
Yeah, on the audit,
persistence
for
with
sure.
that.
Thank you. Okay,
Okay, thank you. All right, and continuing on the consent agenda, D is council decision, Creekside Cove Planned Unit Development. Council may wish to adopt its decision granting a request by Westland Development Services for a planned unit development allowing construction of 42 zero-lot line townhomes generally located at the southwest end of Freeman Lane, subject to conditions. E, council decision, short plat approval for Brady subdivision. Council may wish to adopt the decision approving the short plat for Brady subdivision, which subdivides approximately 1.68 acres of land into 3 lots, subject to conditions. Council decision, final plat approval for Rest Lawn Memorial Gardens. Council may wish to adopt its decision approving the subdivision of approximately 14 acres of land into 40 small lots and 721 large lots, subject to conditions. Council, how do you wish to proceed?
Mayor, I do just want to say something. I will
Yes.
vote yes for the consent agenda, but I did vote no for letter D. So I just,
Okay, on the
I just want to
Creekside
let people
planned
know
unit.
that.
Yes,
And Mr. Mayor, I'm in that same situation. I voted against that as well, so.
okay, thanks for the clarification. Okay, so did I hear a first from Councilman Paulson? I believe
No,
you
I
had
was just
there.
telling you.
Okay, all right, sorry.
Mayor, I would move that we approve the consent agenda items A through F as outlined.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a first from Councilman Bates, a second from Councilwoman Swanson. Aubriana, please call the roll.
Bates,
Yes.
Swanson,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Paulson,
Yes.
Satterfield.
Yes.
All right, agenda item number 4 is proclamations. We do not have any of those this evening, so we'll move right into calendar review, agenda item 5. Council meetings, June 1, 2, 3, and 4, 9 a.m. City Council Budget Development meetings. It will be a busy week there. June 4th, 5:30 p.m. Council Clarification Meeting. 6 p.m. also on June 4th is the regular City Council meeting. June 11, City Council Work Session, that's been canceled. June 18th, 9 a.m., City Council Budget Development Meeting, 5:30 p.m. Council Clarification Meeting, and 6 o'clock p.m. regular City Council meeting. Other events, May 22nd, we do have the Field of Heroes back at Century High School. May 22nd to 23rd, Bannock County PRCA Rodeo at the Bannock County Events Complex. I think that's great news. We've been without a PRCA rodeo since the Dodge Rodeo left, so please go support that. May 23rd, Ross Park Aquatic Center opens for the season, weather permitting. May 25th, city offices will be closed for the Memorial Day holiday. However, garbage, compost, and recycling pickups will be on schedule. May 30th, free day at the zoo, sponsored by Connections Credit Union. Looking ahead, dog licenses, they expire on June 1st. Half-price dog licenses are being offered through the month of May. Licenses may be purchased at the animal shelter. Okay, agenda item 5 is items from the audience. We do have one person that signed in. This time has been set aside to hear items from the audience not listed on the agenda. Items which appeared somewhere else on the agenda will not be discussed at this time. The council is not allowed to take any official action at this meeting on matters brought before under the agenda item. Items will either be referred to the appropriate staff or scheduled on a subsequent agenda. You must sign in at the start of the meeting in order to be recognized. Note, time allotted for this is 15 minutes overall with maximum of 3 minutes per speaker. We do have one citizen that signed in, Dave Van Eaton, I believe. Hello.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. My name is Dave Van Etten, and I'm here representing Skate Idaho, the local nonprofit behind Go Skate Day and many of the community activities surrounding the Optimist Skate Park. First, on behalf of the entire skate community, I want to sincerely thank the City of Pocatello, the Mayor, the City Council, and the Parks Director for helping make the new skate park a reality. What this park means to our community is hard to fully put into words. For a lot of kids, teenagers, and even adults, the skate park is more than just concrete and ramps. It's a place to belong. It's a healthy outlet. It's a place where people build friendships, confidence, creativity, and resilience. Every day we see kids being outside, active, encouraging each other, learning new skills, and spending less time isolated indoors. I'm sure you've seen firsthand on your way to and from work. You'll see young kids skating next to adults, families watching from the sidelines, and strangers cheering each other on after landing a trick. That kind of positive community space is rare, and Pocatello now has one of the best examples of it in Idaho. The main reason I'm here tonight is that I wanted to personally invite all of you to join us for our 4th annual Go Skate Day community gathering at the skate park on June 21st from 4 to 7 p.m. Whether you stay for 5 minutes or the whole event, we'd love to have you there to see firsthand the positive impact this park is having on our community. We are so excited to be able to hold this one at the new Optimist Skate Park. Thank you again for believing in this project and investing in something that will continue to benefit Pocatello for many years to come.
Thank you.
And I have
Appreciate-
a flyer, if I could leave this with you all.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Agenda item 7, resolution declaring intent to create a local improvement district. Council may wish to adopt a resolution declaring an intention to create a local improvement district number 120 for water system improvements and setting up a public hearing.
Mayor,
Yes,
I move to approve agenda item number 7 as outlined.
thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a first from Councilman Paulson, a second from Councilwoman Satterfield. Aubriana, please call the roll.
Paulson,
Yes.
Satterfield,
Yes.
Bates,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Swanson.
Yes.
Agenda item 8, short plat application for Deer Haven. Council may wish to approve a request by Kenneth Swisher, represented by Jose Nava, to subdivide 12.99 acres of land into 2 residential lots. The property is addressed at 1975 Arlington Drive. Staff recommends approval of the request and finds the proposal to be in compliance with applicable standards of Pocatello Municipal Code.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I move we approve agenda item number 8 as outlined, short plat application for Deer Haven.
thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a first from Councilwoman Swanson, a second from Councilman Bates. Aubriana, please call the roll.
Swanson,
Yes.
Bates,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Paulson,
Yes.
Satterfield.
Yes.
Agenda item 9, grant application for Bloomberg Center for Public Innovation, 2026 to 2028 Love Your Block grant. Council may wish to authorize submission of a Bloomberg Center for Public Innovation 2026 to 2028 Love Your Block grant application to implement a wayfinding program in the historic downtown district, and if awarded, authorize acceptance of the grant and authorize the mayor's signature on all pertinent documents, subject to legal department review. The total proposed project is a 2-year project in the amount of $270,000 and will be fully funded by the grant.
Mayor,
Yes,
I move to approve agenda item number 9 as outlined.
Second.
thank you. We have a first from Councilman Paulson, a second from Councilwoman Satterfield. Aubriana, please call the roll.
Paulson,
Yes.
Satterfield,
Yes.
Bates,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Swanson.
Yes.
Agenda item 10, grant application, U.S. Department of Transportation, Safe Streets and Roads for All Implementation Grant. Council may wish to authorize submission of the U.S. Department of Transportation Safe Streets and Roads for All Implementation Grant application for public safety facility upgrades, and if awarded, authorize acceptance of the grant and authorize the mayor's signature on all pertinent documents subject to legal department review. The total project costs are $31,582,400 and requires a 20% local match. The total grant would be $25 million, and the local match would be the local match would be $6,582,400. Christine, were you going to present?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Christine Howe, Grants Manager.
Becky Babb, Planning Manager.
So this grant application before you today is for the U.S. Department of Transportation Safe Streets and Roads for All Implementation Grant Program. The Grants Division typically keeps an eye out for potential grant opportunities that will achieve a number of city goals that are either articulated by the council and their goals or through our various plans that we've adopted in the city. So when this grant application came up, we saw it as an opportunity to find funding to support several of the council goals, which include upgrades to this facility to allow for proper space for the police department. Originally, when we learned about the Safe Streets and Roads for All program, we applied for the planning grant in 2022, and we were successful in completing an action plan through that program with the intent of implementing some of the projects through future grant opportunities from the implementation funding. A lot of our focus in that Safe Streets and Roads for All plan was to achieve a Vision Zero, so reduce pedestrian fatalities from accidents. And through that, we outlined a number of ways to achieve that, including improving post-crash care. So this grant application primarily focuses on improving post-crash care, and we envision doing that through improvements to our police capabilities, particularly around the dispatch center. So before you, that's what you'll see most of the application discuss. We did present this to you at the work session, and so as a result of that conversation at the work session, council did request some finance projections and information. So I believe you have received a document with sort of this blue chart on it that talks about potential revenue sources for the grant match. And so what we've done is we've essentially projected out the match needs by fiscal year. This is a 5-year period of performance for the grant with an anticipated start date of November of 2027 if awarded, and once we complete grant agreement negotiations. And so for each fiscal year, we've approximated how much would be needed in match based on our project costs. And so we've kind of outlined that here in your packet, and then have provided 4 options as projections for where funding sources could come from for the available for the match requirement. And so these projections, we also wanted to provide kind of some information at the end in terms of what would be sort of assumptions made and recommendations. And so this projection utilizes our foregone revenue as well as general fund revenue sources. Options A and B anticipate using 1% of foregone in this year's budget, which was an option presented to you when our CFO, Rich Morgan, was presenting at the budget meetings. And then options C and D anticipate foregone balance if we were to use 1% of foregone and 3% of allowable foregone for capital in this year's budget. So those are the distinctions between A and B and C and D. And as you'll see, options A and C anticipate using foregone for the general fund budget as is allowable up to that 1% for operations and maintenance, and then using the 3% capital portion for the project. And so those options are probably the most, financially like viable options because it is recommended to use that foregone back for your operations and maintenance into your general fund budget. although we did provide options if you would just use it for the capital project. So those are outlined here. It's quite a bit of information, but it shows that if you were to go with the lowest available foregone and utilizing the foregone moving forward only for capital items, your kind of worst-case scenario on your general fund reserves for the project would be about 2.8 million with using foregone the general fund reserve would be about 4.16 million and using the foregone of about 2.4 million. So again, that'd be over the 5-year period of performance. Currently, our unrestricted general fund reserves are at about 7.9 million. So that's a consideration as you think about that fund being utilized over those years and how that would reduce that fund and that's available. But those are the financial kind of projections we wanted to provide in response to the work session. I will say that in doing this grant application, we've collaborated with a number of the departments in the city, particularly the police department and dispatch, to gather the information. They have provided thousands of data points in terms of our calls and response times, which our GIS department has turned into some very consumable maps and heat maps to identify those high-risk areas. And we're talking, over 250,000 kind of lines of data that they have translated into usable information for us for this grant. So that's been a huge lift on the staff side to really articulate how much of a need it is to improve the facilities on the police department side. I believe in the work session, we had some questions about the square footage of this building. This current facility is about 64,000 square feet, and the police department side takes up about 23,500 square feet. Using the projections of our population and the recommendations to have 1.8 sworn officers per 1,000 people of population, the police department would need roughly 64,500 square feet to operate. And that also includes a 3-to-1 non-sworn officer personnel load as well. It's about 155 personnel required to meet our population projection demand. And there was an additional question about the federal building downtown, and the square footage of that is 36,353 square feet. So it's close with 30,000. But this grant includes all phases of the project, so there would be the design and engineering. It would include all equipment costs to upgrade, dispatch, and the related information technology areas, as well as the renovation based on a square footage price. We also anticipate Davis-Bacon wage rates under federal grant programs, so we've included a 20% inflation for that. We also would be required to do an environmental review, and so that would be anticipated in this grant, as well as a contingency built into the project budget as well.
Becky, did you have anything to present?
No, she's covered all of it. We're just
Okay,
making sure if there's additional questions.
sure. Councilman Nichols?
So I want to make sure I understand. This analysis is just potential ways to pay for the match on the grant. Is that correct?
Correct, and we wanted to also show you the projection of what we anticipate the match demand would be by that fiscal year over the project lifespan.
And then regardless of the option here, this would require us spending our 1% foregone that we're generally able to use for operations, correct? We've, in past years, we've been using that to help balance our budget. Is that's not correct?
No, in these options, we provided you with the option of using the 1% foregone for operations and maintenance of general fund or for the capital project. Or you could choose to not do that and exclusively fund it out of general fund and not use the foregone.
Okay, so the 1% you're talking, so the 3%, that's the 3% that can be used from foregone from capital.
Correct.
Is right, so some permutation of the 1% foregone, the 3% for capital and reserves is what it takes to just fund the match.
Those are options
options,
provided. You could, in theory, also fund it exclusively out of general fund reserves, or you could reduce, you could put it into your general fund budget if you'd like. And so we did provide under number 2 what the total general fund reserve ask would be for each fiscal year if you chose to not utilize foregone as well.
Right, but the grant proposal provides that City Hall's gonna have to move, correct? I mean, that's in the narrative, that all of this space is gonna be used for a first responder center of sorts. Is that correct?
The idea is to essentially approach the project with that as a holistic project. But if it was discovered that that was not a viable option, you could come up with other alternatives to properly meet the scope of the project, which ultimately is to improve the dispatch center and our post-crash care response. But where the police department does need that 64,000 square feet, you know, you'd be probably better to approach it as a holistic project.
Right, right. But if we were to do that, we have to move City Hall. How much does that cost? Do we know? And how do you have proposals on how we would pay for it?
I can't speak to how much it would cost at this time. As you know, we're doing a feasibility study on the federal building in downtown to determine if that building is sufficient. Using a similar price per square foot for renovation, that can give you a good sense of how much renovating that facility might be, which, you know, quick math is between $10 and $12 million.
Right. So this proposal only gets us part of the way there. We still have to figure out how to fund the City Hall. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
that's correct. If we discovered that we couldn't move City Hall, we could modify our scope to try and fit everyone in this building and still provide all of those updates to dispatch. And there is a lot of underutilized space in this building, but that would not give police the 65,000 square feet that they need to truly meet the needs of the community.
But when does that have to be done? Can that be done? Can we submit this application and then modify it once we get into this, or once we lock in to doing the full $25 million? Are we locked into doing this all as a first responder center and then moving City Hall?
There's kind of a few parts to that. So the grant award would be announced in November of this year, and then you would have a year to negotiate that grant agreement. So during that time, you could do some analysis and determine if moving the City Hall was not feasible, or if it was, or an approach that wanted to be taken. In addition, during the design phase, you could look at options and have your designer come up with multiple kind of options for that if then it also came up that you didn't want to move City Hall. And then in terms of working with DOT for kind of changing that grant agreement and that scope, ultimately you want to achieve your same metrics. So if we could still improve post-crash care demonstrably, as would be the kind of bottom line purpose of the grant, and still, you know, maintain this facility or renovate in parts, you could certainly achieve that, still achieve the scope as Becky stated. If project costs come down, you know, that would have to also be negotiated in the grant agreement. So reducing your grant award, I've not encountered that before. Most folks exceed their grant awards if they're doing projects, but I don't think DOT would not be favorable, particularly if we had enough conversation with the granting agency and worked with them in that capacity. Historically, there have been, you know, traffic projects and things that have gone on for many years and needed multiple amendments and iterations and other funding sources to come in. So they're usually pretty amenable to working on things like that. So you wouldn't necessarily be completely locked in without an out. And if you were, you could also then cancel the grant and essentially be, you know, terminated at that point if needed as well.
So let's say that we decided we wanted to keep City Hall here and do an addition for the police department. Would that be allowable under this grant?
It would depend as we work through that initial design phase. Certainly the first phase that we would contract would be that review of what the design and the space of this building truly is. I think Chief Chai has a great idea on how he thinks it could work, but that would all have to be put into very formal documents. And so that would be If we got to that point, which would likely be 2 to 3 years from now, it certainly could be a conversation that we have with our grant administrator, should we be awarded this grant, of how we adjust those designs to still fit the needs of the post-crash care and the dispatch services and the upgrades to this building to accommodate that.
Great, thank you very much.
So just as a follow-up on the grant application, that 64,000 square feet that are needed for the growing needs, I understand that for sure. But if we don't go 64,000 square feet of police state space, I'm understanding that that's not necessarily a deal killer for the, even though we need it, like the standards say, there's some wiggle room there.
I think as long as we can achieve the outcome of that improvement to our post-crash care and meet the actual criteria of this grant, then how we adjust this space is less of a priority to the grant administrating agency than how we meet the outcomes and outputs for what they're trying to prioritize.
Okay,
And
yes.
follow, so if we were to meet all the outcomes and could do it for half the cost, I'm guessing that would be looked upon favorably, wouldn't it be, by the grants people?
I would think so. I mean, there are problems, there are, paperwork issues with deobligating funds and things, but I can't imagine that would necessarily be negative if we're able to achieve everything for under the budget.
Great, thank you.
And it's not unheard of, like with our tree grant, right? We received additional funding that other communities weren't able to utilize. So that has occurred, and it has occurred recently enough that we benefited from that particular situation. So if that were to happen, that would be the process that we would have to move through, but definitely something that happens.
Great, thank you again.
Yeah, Councilman Bates.
So kind of going along with what Councilmember Nichols has asked, as far as, the possibility to somewhere down the road adjust this grant if awarded. Christine, can you walk me through, you've got each of these activities. Can you just kind of explain briefly what would be included at each point? I mean, I know they've got a pretty general, some of them you can skip, but the early stages here, grant award and grant agreement execution, what exactly does that mean? Maybe those first three.
Sure. So the grant award is typically an announcement from the DOT, and then we get a formal letter indicating if we've been awarded. And the grant agreement execution is a process where the city essentially negotiates back and forth with the U.S. Department of Transportation to develop a grant agreement. And that grant agreement will include measurable outcomes. We traditionally have to have a minimum of 2. And it will also include the phases of the project that you have to accomplish by a certain date, and upon which they also obligate an amount of the funding. So they don't want to obligate it all up front. That's very rare in case something happens with the project and it falls through. So they'll obligate it based on those phases. And I believe we need a minimum of, is it 2 or 3?
We have had to have at least 2 phases, which often ends up as design and then construction, which is how we lost so much of our Terry First grant, is that we were still in that design phase.
And so after we kind of go back and forth and negotiate that, and there's other terms and conditions we have to comply with for various federal regulations and federal legislation, such as Civil Rights Act and things like that. So once we negotiate that grant agreement, it's executed on our end and then by the DOT. It can take them 3 months to sign something. So that's why they provide about a year for the grant agreement negotiation execution. And they want these grant agreements fully authorized by that year. And after that stage, we'll go into our compliance with the National Environmental Protection Act and any permitting and state and local approvals we'll need. That often requires consultants to come in and do specific EPA-related work, such as state historic preservation or cultural resource reviews, phase 1 or phase 2 environmental site assessments, things like that, to comply with the NEPA requirements. And so that can take approximately 12 months. Where this site has already been disturbed, we anticipate that will be a more expedited process, but have still built in a cushion of 12 months because our recent ones have taken quite a bit of time, and we want to account for any delays on the federal side. After that, we'll procure design and engineering services. And so this would be, the architect that would come in and do the programming and the design that would then put together a bid package and serve as our engineer throughout the course of the project, throughout the construction project. So after we procure that, we'll go through that design and engineering process. And then,
So, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, Christine. So, but I guess, is it fair to say then, by November 1st of 2027, we pretty much need to be locked in on what we're doing? That's, by that point, it'd be too late to change the scope of this project.
I believe that should actually say November 1st of 2028.
2028, okay.
Or, let's see, so 2027 is when the grant would start. Then we would go into the permitting and NEPA from 27 to October of 2028. So, yeah, depending on how you want to look at it, if you know, I would say, you know, you would spend money on the environmental, and so if, at that point, when your dollar's spent, if you want to consider that locked in, then yes, it would begin in November of 2027.
Okay. And then regarding this, the formula for space needed per officer, that's not like a requirement or part of this grant, right? That's just an industry guideline?
Yeah, that's a best practice standard that we derived from the police's 2018 site feasibility study. And I can find the source of where that
That's okay.
1.8 standard came from if you're interested.
And maybe this is a question for Chief Shy, but we have 23,000 square feet here. We have some substations, is that correct?
Chief Roger Shy, Pocatello Police Department. Yeah, we do have 2 substations, but they're used out in the field and they're only used on a temporary basis. So if an officer has a report to do, rather than coming here, they'll go to that substation and do that. They may be there for an hour. They may be there for 30 minutes. That has restroom facilities there where they can go to the bathroom or take a break and eat something while they're out in the field.
Like a mobile or an office space, just, I guess, I'm sorry, Chief, I'm not fully understanding what they're used for.
It's a shared space, so it's not like they have a particular office space. They're shared computers that are at those stations, and the whole idea is to have the officers out in the community more. They're used on a temporary basis, so there's no set time where they're there. It's not anybody's permanent workstation. They go there if they need to do a report or take care of any phone calls or follow-up or something, where they're not coming back to the station and they're staying out on their beat.
Okay.
So there's no permanent facility, like that's their permanent workstation. It's just a temporary, and they're shared computers. They're shared for the entire workforce that's out on the street.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just wondering how that, I guess, do you feel we can't count any of that square footage towards this?
I don't think so, because it's not permanent workspace. There's shared areas, and like the Fred Meyer substation, that training area, we also will use that for like driving schools or other community events that go there. The mayor's MIAC has used that facility for their essential needs drives, and we share that Fred Meyer space with the community.
Okay.
Here.
Yes. Or
I would like-
were you
Yeah,
still-
I'm okay for
Sorry.
now.
Sure.
Question. So through this process of all the work that they're doing, and they've come to you and you guys are working together, in this, is this what you would like to see? Like, is this the place you want to be? This
Yeah.
building?
Yes, this would work. I mean, ideally, would I like to have a new shiny police station like Idaho Falls? Absolutely, but you know, that's not in the cards for us. I believe that this building has good bones. It's very centrally located in the city where we have a good response time for different things. We looked at different spots in the city, but if, you know, going on the other side of on the west side of town, that like right now the Center Street underpass is closed down, and there's been times where Other places have been flooded, so for us to respond, not necessarily a good idea. I think this is centrally located. I've already got plans of how I would like to expand, and including this room. I've walked through some of the buildings with some of the council members and showed them how tight quarters we are, and I believe that this building would be a good spot and where we could use it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Okay, yes.
So let's say we were to do an addition on this building to accommodate your needs. And then maybe we keep City Hall here, I don't know. What would you need? You have 23,000 square feet now, right?
Yeah,
Double that?
at least.
At least double that, so at
least.
least 23,000. And then I think I know you've mentioned that you need a place to park your vehicles, right? And what other needs would you have on top of just additional space?
So right now, as you saw, our street crimes and our narcotics officers are stacked upon each other. If we go to bring someone in the building, we have to essentially bring them through the entire building, which isn't ideal. We have spots in this building with back doors that would be very easy to access for them and give them a little more space and a little more secure. Also, our computer forensics that's the wave of the future. The wave of the future is computer and cell phone forensics. And we have a room right now where there's not enough space. They've got maximum space, and we need a mini split right now because it's getting very hot in that room from the computers that generate heat. So as the summertime comes, we're gonna have to deal with that as a cooling issue, but they can't use all the equipment that we have. They have to take it out of the boxes and then use it on a temporary basis, then put it back in the boxes and then reuse it again. I would love to have what's called a Faraday room, which is a secure room where we can put cell phones, tablets, laptop computers that are seized for an investigation, and that way the signal does not go out and no signals can come in. It's a secure facility. That's the industry standard for a computer forensics program tied into our computer forensics capabilities. I'd also expand our women's locker room. It's very tight quarters in there, and that is a need. Our quartermaster does not have enough space to have everything in one spot where she can go in and get the required uniforms for people. We're in like 3 different spaces. Our evidence is spread out in 4 different locations, and it'd be nice to consolidate all of our evidence in one spot with all the equipment and all the needs that are done. Our dispatch center is completely stacked. There's no room to grow. I know there's been all these discussions about combining dispatch centers. Well, we don't have the space for it right now. And as our city grows and into the future, we're going to need a bigger spot for dispatch with additional consoles and places for them to work. And our training room is very small in comparison to a lot of other training rooms. To get the bigger trainings, to host them, to save the city money, would require us to have 50 or more seats. So we would need a room like this to host some of the trainings that travel around the country, and this would be an ideal spot. The place to park our vehicles, we have several high-dollar vehicles that are out in the elements, like our mobile command center, our MRAP, some other vehicles, and we need to get those into a climate-controlled area to extend their lifespan. And we need to replace that old fence concrete fence that goes like 5 different directions in the back parking lot. So that would be something that would be needed. But if we had to add on to the building, I don't care how you skin the cat. I mean, if you want to add on to it, you all want to stay here, I'm good with being cozy. But however that looks, I'm fine with.
All right, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, Councilman Hayden Paulson.
So this is a little separate, but still with EMS, dispatch, et cetera. Is there any progress on discussions with Chubbuck? Because I feel like if there is, or if there's not, that could affect this building.
Yeah, we've had some brief discussions with Chubbuck that I think the thing I found is the way our system is set up for 911, the incoming calls, we all share the similar type of equipment. And it's kind of like the technology of you working remotely, that they can work in any building. And one discussion we had is if you consolidate, that you could do your job like in that facility where you're already at. So that changed my perspective a little bit, that with that technology, if you have a combined dispatch center, you don't have to be all in one room and one roof. You can still do that remotely as long as you have the backup. But we've gone a little ways with that discussion, but that's kind of what I learned, that our option is, if we want to do that, combining Pocatello and Chubbuck and not necessarily the county. I don't know if that helps or not.
Thank you.
But that technology, it's not like you have to move from one building to the other, that you can work remotely and still be one dispatch center. So to me, I guess what I'm saying is if we combined, we wouldn't necessarily have to have a huge space, that we could still do that in two different locations and be combined.
And follow up probably for Christine. So let's say the discussions are fruitful with our friends to the north. Could it be possible for them to contribute? Because I don't remember what you said last week about certain monies not being allowed to be matches for this grant. Could that potentially be an option for a municipal government to contribute to it?
Sure, so the only funds typically that can't serve as the match are other federal funds.
Okay.
If you were to receive a donation, that could count. That would be the source. If you were to include an additional partner, you may have to enter into some kind of agreement, and we'd have to talk to DOT about shifting as almost co-applicants if you wanted to pull in the municipality and have them directly support. If they were supporting through an agreement we had with the city where we gained revenue and then used that revenue toward the project, I think that would be allowable under a revenue source to provide for the local match. Just to briefly speak about the dispatch, we did talk to dispatch quite a bit in putting this application together. And the way the calls are routed, the Pocatello dispatch is the only dispatch trained to dispatch EMS to the incidents where it's required. So even if a call went to Chubbuck or Bannock County or even Idaho State Police, it still needs to be routed to Pocatello to be dispatched. And I believe during the work session I mentioned the kind of recommended square footages for those dispatch stations, and they're well below what is considered just good, sort of enough space. And in addition, Pocatello, so we've moved to this next gen 911, which is sort of moving off of analog into the cloud-based 911 system. And so the two primary sites for that are, I believe, Ada County and Bannock County, and Pocatello Dispatch serves as kind of the B site for Bannock County. So we're sort of the backup on that main next-gen 911 where they've rolled this out in the state. Idaho is one of the last states in the country. I think two others hadn't adopted it yet. So as much as you could do remote dispatch in certain circumstances, I think certain operating procedures and in terms of training and what those folks are able to do here under their qualifications, you'd have to obviously implement that with other dispatch centers to be able to do the same type of dispatching in the same level that our Pocatello dispatchers do.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, anything else? Yeah, yes.
As I was contemplating this grant tonight, it is daunting to think about committing $6+ million in the future, and depending on who's here in the future, I mean that becomes a problem for folks down the road. Hope not too big of a problem. We are faced with space constraints and growth, and those two things are kind of a double whammy.
And I think we have to accept the fact that we either pay now or pay later. And money later is always more expensive than money now. We have a kind of a unicorn opportunity here to get the feds to help pay for some of this expansion that we are going to have to pay for in some way at some point. And so the opportunity's presented itself. I understand it. It's a bit of a risk to take on this kind of opportunity, but we are at a generational turning point, or it's a decision and a commitment the city is going to have to make. It's a big one, and it's uncomfortable because it is so big, but we are at a point in our city's progression and history where this kind of investment has to be done.
If I could just add to that, just one thing, as Christine and I have toured police's space, dispatch in particular, those needs will be much, much sooner than later. The dispatch supervisor in particular, her office is a hallway. She can't close the doors. If she has to dispatch for dispatch, she has to have a handheld radio and work her computer simultaneously. She's using a filing cabinet as a whiteboard because there's nowhere, her office is 100 square feet. The space where she has her leads go so that they can review calls is the size of a closet. It's less than 10 by 10. You can't roll the chair all the way back. So while it is a risk, I will say that one of the costs that will be pretty immediate will be dispatch. They work with IT pretty consistently on a very frequent basis to even figure out how to adjust monitors so that they have enough monitors in their space individually for each dispatch personnel to manage. Their space isn't ADA compliant. I don't know what they would do if they hired a dispatcher that had that need. So just as a note, if you haven't toured that space, you should.
I just have one thing to appreciate your comments, Councilwoman Swanson. And we moved into this building in 1993 from the old KPVI building where we were at. And when we moved in there, it was more space than what we had. And I only know this building, but Captain Collins remembers being over at the other building and how cramped we were there. And City Hall we shared it with City Hall, and then we moved here and had a lot more space. The other issue with dispatch is where our radio rooms are. We have a radio room next to it, and then we have a radio room set up in the back, right off of the back parking lot, and they're completely separate areas. And it's just, I mean, the way it's put together is kind of jury rigged, and it needs to be consolidated. And the equipment that we have is good thanks to the 911 funds. It is up to state of the art equipment, but how it's spaced out is not efficient or effective. And our dispatchers do a phenomenal job to be the only ACE certified department in the state with the confines which they've had to work in, and they need more space in there as technology grows. The other thing we're looking at too is a real-time crime center. That's the wave of the future, for when something happens, for there to be a person monitoring the cameras that are on all of our intersections, and the flock cameras and the business cameras and Idaho State cameras, and all piped in, and get that information to the officers so they can find the guy walking down the street with the Mickey Mouse backpack and the blue beanie cap that is a suspect. That's the wave of the future. Napa PD has a really good real-time crime center, so that's what the additional space could be used for as well for the future. So thank you for that comment.
Okay, yes.
I want to thank you for all the time that you put into this. I know that we have so many big issues, from City Hall moving to this and all these decisions we have to be made. This is an issue. This is a problem. No one wants to spend money. We don't want to spend money. The citizens don't. But it is a problem. It's a great problem to have. We're growing. We're we need more room. We need to make sure that we, like when you talk about the space that they work in, I'm surprised some people work there. And I haven't seen the space, but I believe what you're saying. And so it's hard sitting in this position, making this decision. Am I grateful we wouldn't be spending 25 million and we're only spending 6? I mean, 6 still sounds like crazy, but like, it is what we're dealing with. And I do appreciate Councilwoman Swanson and what she said. These are big decisions to be made and they're not made lightly. But I see that you're trying to help us maximize our money and get way more for what we're spending in a problem in a building that we're still keeping, but using it in a way that we need. And so I do appreciate all the hard work and hours that you guys put into this and all the different people that you've talked to that are a part of this. And I appreciate it because it helps me make my decision.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Other comments?
Yeah, I
Yes,
have
Councilman
a
Nichols.
comment. I agree, this could be a great opportunity, and I toured through the police department with the chief today, and there's undoubtedly, they need some new space, they're packed in here. But we have a really serious problem, and that is if we proceed with this as outlined, we have to figure out how we're gonna pay for City Hall. I mean, that's 12+ million bucks. I mean, I think it's questionable whether we can get the taxpayers to support a bond. Our existing budget is already pretty much maxed out. So I'm really struggling on how are we gonna pay for that integral part of this proposal. I'd love to see it downtown, but I mean, I don't wanna get in a situation where we get the grant approved and we're all ready to go, and we still don't know how we're gonna fund City Hall.
Yes.
Christine, you said we received a planning grant in '22, right?
The Safe Streets and Roads for All planning grant, correct?
Yeah. And so this proposal, everything we're talking about doing, when was it created? When was the idea of putting emergency services all in this building? When did that become an idea? And I'm wondering, I know you said you've worked with a lot of department heads. We have a new council, not all of us were here. Was council involved in that whenever this was discussed?
Sure, so it's kind of two different things. We applied for the planning grant through the DOT, primarily focused on that Vision Zero and those traffic safety improvements. And then when the DOT released the notice of funding opportunity for this program, they put an emphasis and a priority on public safety infrastructure and post-crash care. And so we pivoted our approach, which typically would be traffic signals, crosswalks, pedestrian beacons, because our plan did have elements that would allow us to apply for this public safety infrastructure. I've referenced the 2018 study. I don't know which council originally had the goal of moving City Hall downtown and renovating the space to be entirely a police department. That's before my time as well. But since I've been with the city, it has been a council goal. And so knowing those goals in this plan, then we identified the funding source and kind of put 2 and 2 together, saying, hey, this is a great opportunity to approach this. It didn't have to do with the SS4A action or action plan necessarily, but that provided us the avenue to be eligible to apply for this for public safety infrastructure.
Okay,
I
yeah,
think
I
the
guess
chief
I'm
can
just
answer on
wondering, I'm sorry, I know, I'll, in just a moment, Chief, but I guess I'm just wondering when all of this, because it seemed like in our work session, what we were told was if we wanted to go a different direction, that the timeline for that was really tight, almost impossible. I mean, do you still feel that way? Or am I mischaracterizing what was said in the work session?
A different direction, could you clarify what you mean from?
Instead of moving City Hall and using this existing space, doing an addition or something. I got the sense in our work session that the idea of doing an addition to this building would be very difficult to do with the timeline that we're on with this grant. I mean, is that?
Again, as we mentioned earlier, you'd have to still achieve the grant outcomes. I believe your question was if we looked for a new location for a new police department, in which case we definitely would not have time to apply for this grant to do that. That would take a long time to identify parcels to do that and then have that in mind to construct a new police department. That was, I believe, the question I responded to. The shifting of this grant, again, with our previous answers, you'd have to achieve the scope, that post-crash care, and negotiate that with your granting agency, with the DOT.
Chief, I have something else to say, but go ahead, please.
Sure. To answer your question about the moving City Hall and making this a first responders complex, this has been in discussion ever since I became the chief in 2019. And we've had that discussion. I know that was a goal of Mayor Bladd to move City Hall downtown and to give us the rest of this building. And probably before that, because I remember Chief Marchand talking about it as well. So it's been a while.
I can understand that's been an idea or a goal of councils, of previous councils. I think to be completely blunt about it, I could vote yes for this. I would vote yes for this if the federal building was not a part of it at all. And if we were talking about doing an addition and not moving City Hall. I echo what Councilmember Nichols has said. I don't feel comfortable putting ourselves or a future council in a position where they're having to pay for a new City Hall, whether that's the federal building or another option, and in addition, come up with all the match requirements for this grant. If it was just this grant on its own, I think it's a no-brainer. It's including what's required with this of moving City Hall that just, I can't wrap my head around, or my heart, or any other part of my body. I'm very uncomfortable with trying to find a way to finance that and put ourselves, and I think this is a very novel approach of using all of our foregone. But at the same time, we are also, have a street department that's $1 million short. There'll always be competing needs. And so if moving City Hall wasn't a part of it, I'd be all for it, but I don't feel like I can approve doing both. If not, I'm open to any other discussion or thoughts.
Brent's got thoughts.
Brett McLean, Planning Director. And I really appreciate your comments, Councilman Bates. I think it's really important to understand that even if we just add an addition to this building and renovate the entirety of this building, the budget that's being proposed in this grant will be exceedingly higher than what is being proposed. It will cost more than what this is being proposed. So you're going to incur more costs than what this proposal is, even if you are just adding an addition. You still have to renovate the entirety of this building plus the addition. And so the budget that is in this proposal will get larger. And so you're still having to deal with the issues of expansion of a city hall, whether it's here or somewhere else. Those costs are still going to have to be figured out. And I agree that there's something that need to be figured out. And we've been talking with Rich about what options we have. And that's part of what, with the federal building, as we go through the architectural review of this building, we can understand what those costs are. It'll give us a good idea of what we have to anticipate and how do we move forward with offsetting those costs. How do we afford those things? And so this is, in my mind, whether we keep City Hall here or we move it, it's going to cost more than what this grant proposal is. And we're going to have to address those things. And the good thing is we'll know, at least with the federal building here this fall, what are we looking at for that building? What is that going to actually cost? And we can then move forward with that. And the good thing about separating that out is then we don't necessarily have to use the Davis-Bacon wages for the renovations of the City Hall. If you lump it all in with the federal grant, you have to do the whole project as Davis-Bacon.
Yes, from Councilman Swanson, and then, sorry, go
Please,
ahead.
please go ahead.
Councilman Nichols, sorry, and then Swanson after that, I apologize. Or
Please go ahead, I
however.
wanna,
All right, thank you. So this is kind of at the bottom of my decision-making about this grant. I feel pretty confident that I'll be voting to approve it. We are going to have to make a huge generational spend here because we're out of space. Whether we build a second story on this building, which will, by the way, require another feasibility study, whether we find another piece of land that Pocatello owns and build a new city hall from scratch, feasibility study, millions of dollars of layout for any of those projects, any of them. We have to find a way to do that. And it's granted, it may be a difference between 15 million or 25 million. That's possible, of course. But whatever those dollars are, they're going to be, it's going to take a lot of creativity and PR work and explanation about the dearth of space this city is facing. So I understand the concerns of my fellow council members. I think it's an unavoidable generational investment that we are going to have to make, and it's going to be painful, and we can't not do it. We have to find a way to do that, regardless of where the city hall ends up or doesn't end up going. And this helps pay for at least a chunk of it, at least a chunk of it.
Okay, Councilman Nichols.
if we do proceed with this grant application, I think it would be prudent to just then immediately assemble some type of a task force or committee or whatever we need to do and try to figure out how are we going to pay for this new city hall. Because if we can't pay for the new city hall, none of this works. And in addition to that, I think it'd be prudent to have a backup plan. We still don't have the feasibility study. We don't know whether that's doable or not. And we don't know whether we can even raise the money if it is doable. So having a backup plan, such as perhaps utilization of a portion of this remains as a city hall, using a grant to build new space for the police department, might be a good backup plan to have. And I don't think it costs an awful lot of money to put that report together. We have, I think, $5.4 million in foregone that can be used for capital. So worst case scenario, one thing that could be done, we could use a grant to pay for the new police base over there, and then use the foregone capital, the $5.4 million that we have, to do some renovations for City Hall here.
The match,
As well,
or additional to,
yeah,
oh, I
to
see.
do capital improvements. Then we'd still have to figure out how to fund a match, but it'd be a much smaller match. So just a few thoughts.
Yeah, and one thing, like I was quizzing Christine on this, that we do have the lack of that feasibility study for the federal building. And is it the end of the world? Like if we get the grant and we've got the feasibility study, it's looking impossible, we just turn the grant away. I feel a little bit better that we don't have this huge black eye, because how often, like on the transportation department, would we ever apply for something like this? But we discussed a little bit, and it's always not good to turn down grant money, but I feel like there is a bailout if we get to that point on the feasibility study.
Yes, I think if something major came up where you had to not accept the grant award or it truly was going to not be feasible, you would have that option. It would just essentially elevate our risk with the granting agency, which may not preclude us from being awarded future grants. I will say that this grant, it was authorized through the bipartisan infrastructure law for federal fiscals 22 to 26. So this is the last year of this funding being authorized. There is a draft House bill that includes the SS4A program that obviously has to go through Congress, get debated back and forth, and funds appropriated, but it's not clear that the priority of public safety infrastructure will be included in future notices of funding opportunity for this program. And I don't know of another funding source for that type of infrastructure. It's an 80-20 match. If you think about the total project, if you were to move City Hall using a rough estimate of 12 million, so a total $42 million project, you're getting 25 million paid. That's over half. I don't know of any other grant program. I don't think the state of Idaho's ready to issue grants to the state, or I don't know of any other federal ones that would cover that, that portion of a project. So it would be solely the burden of the taxpayers to cover the entirety of the renovation of this facility and moving City Hall if, you know, you choose not to go for the grant route. And the grant is a bit of a, it's the highest range on the grant offerings. They're only giving out a certain number of awards, so you know, we try to put together our best application we can, but it's also a long shot, just to be frank.
Predicting about a 20% or odds
Yeah,
or close
10
to
to
that.
10%. I'd be maybe a little more comfortable with 10%. You know, one out of 100 maybe. So if they're awarding 100 grants and one to each state at least, probably, you know, and so our chances as an Idaho competitor, we feel pretty high, but nationwide, I don't know how they're going to distribute those. But you know, so those are things to consider as well. That I don't envision this particular opportunity being as strong in the future through a federal funding source.
Yeah, and we've talked a little bit internally with staff, and probably isn't very popular or whatever, just kind of when you're out house shopping or, you know, looking at prices. But one thing I still wonder about is, you know, one of our biggest needs seem to be like get more elbow room in here. And it's kind of like buying something new or taking over, so like going to buy a house and the basement's unfinished. You know, I still just think we ought to think about the possibility of lowering that ask down and kind of make it a little bit more bare bones, so we're not taking that bite with the big 6+ million with the 20%. So I'm still like, that's still going through my mind as a prudent approach. It's kind of like when you're buying a house, like it's partially unfinished, and we all want the quality, we want the best, the high standards for the community, but I think that's something we should think about.
Just to sort of clarify some things here. So in the event we were to apply for the grant as listed, and then down the road, we decide, the federal building, that's not feasible, or we can't pay for it or whatever, and we need to, you know, recalculate things. And let's say that perhaps the solution was leaving City Hall here and building some new space for the police department. Do you think, as long as we met the goals of the grant, that that's doable, or is it an all or nothing? Because when we met in a work session, I got the impression it was sort of all or nothing. But now I'm getting the impression that maybe as long as we met the goals of the grant, that we could scale it back. Can you give me a little clarity there, please?
Yeah, again, we'd have to, you know, meet the goals of the grant and negotiate that with the DOT in our grant agreement. So I'm going to defer to the lawyer response and not really commit to that, because I don't know if those negotiations would be, you know, officially approved or allowable by DOT. I think it's highly likely they often work with their grantees to make the projects work. So if you run into a schedule delay or a financial delay, they work really hard with the grantees to make those projects come to fruition. So if we did find, you know, that we were 3 years in, ready to go out to bid for construction, and it truly was going to be an ad reno here instead of full just reno of the building, then, you know, we would confirm that with DOT, and I think they would work with us.
Right.
The application, you know, references moving City Hall once in the overview, and we can remove that if needed. It doesn't, the purpose of the it doesn't talk about staffing levels here and moving to the federal building and all of that. It doesn't mention that address, because that would be a separate project component, not funded by this grant, so we don't need to include that in the application. So I just want to be clear that there's very little in the application about the actual configuration of the spaces for the existing staff. It mostly talks about our needs on the police side, particularly with dispatch, and our high injury networks and those responses to the grant merit criteria. So it isn't very, very narrow. It's specific to the grant application and what we've put together in the narrative.
I got it, thank you.
Okay, yes, Councilman Bates.
Well, Mayor, this will be the last thing I say, and so I'll just end with this. And I want to, from the outset, say I have the utmost respect for Mr. McLean, Chief Shy, Christine, and Becky. Becky and I hug every time we see each other. We are good friends. But we just see differently on this particular, frankly, on the direction. My vote tonight, in part, is I just don't agree with the direction that we're going, because in my opinion, I don't think it's the best option, the most cost-effective option. I agree with Councilmember Swanson that if something does need to be done, it will require a large investment. I don't deny that. But to my very simple mind, everything that would need done at the federal building, and then the difference between remodeling this space or an addition, I simply can't imagine that a remodel and addition of this building that meets all our needs would be more expensive than the kind of two proposals. And we can't separate these two, the two proposals and the path we're going down. I just simply think the most fiscally prudent option is to look at meeting all of the city's needs within the space and the property that we own. And thank you, Nico, for the map of this property. I truly think that's the cheapest possible option that would meet all the needs for the city. And so I can't vote because I just genuinely don't agree with the direction that we're proposing to go. I recognize all of the points made, and I can see the merit, but it's just not the direction I would choose to go.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
Good.
Councilwoman Satterfield? No,
Can I
you're
add
good.
one thing, Mayor?
Oh,
I just,
sure, even
I'm
though you
sorry.
said-
I know.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I'm a politician, so I get to go back on things I've said. Last year, when we appointed Rich to be our CFO, it was controversial. It was. And I believe I was the only council member that explained my vote when I voted to confirm Rich. And I just want to say thank you to all our council members for engaging in a discussion. This is controversial. I mean, there's not a million people here, but this whole idea, all of it together, the public has a great interest in, and there's controversy to it. And so I'm just so grateful that our council is willing to openly discuss and debate and explain why they're voting which way they're voting, because that hasn't always happened. So
Yeah.
thank you to all of you.
Yeah, well said. I'm grateful to have the council where we can have these meaningful, I don't even want to say debates, but discussions, and we hold our respect and just really appreciate the council and we do have varying views, but I really like the direction and the makeup and the variety of opinions, yet we still are civil and can do this. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for all your hard work. All right, I would entertain a motion at this time on how we'd like to proceed.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move that we approve Agenda Item 10, the grant application for the U.S. Department of Transportation, Safe Streets and Roads for All implementation grant as outlined in Item 10.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a first from Councilwoman Swanson, a second from Councilman Paulson. Aubriana, please call the roll.
Swanson,
Yes.
Paulson,
Yes.
Bates,
No.
Nichols,
Yes.
Satterfield.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to a little lighter topic here. Agenda item 11, Airport Grant Application Resolution, State of Idaho Division of Aeronautics, Idaho Airport Aid Program. Council may wish to adopt a resolution and authorize submission of a grant application to the State of Idaho Division of Aeronautics, Idaho Airport Aid Program in the amount of $50,000, and if awarded, authorize acceptance and authorize the mayor's signature on all pertinent documents, subject to legal department review. The funds will be used to match federal grant funds for upcoming airport improvement projects, including purchase of a new ARFF truck and final design and construction of runway 321 and taxiway rehab.
Mayor,
Yes,
I move to approve agenda item number 11 as outlined.
thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a first from Councilman Paulson, a second from Councilman Bates. Brianna, please call the roll.
Paulson,
Yes.
Bates,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Satterfield,
Yes.
Swanson.
Yes.
Agenda item 12, Airport Grant Application, Bid Acceptance and Purchase Agreement, Airport Rescue Firefighting ARFF Truck. Council may wish to approve the following items and authorize the mayor's signature on all pertinent documents, subject to the legal department review. A, approve an application to the FFA for the IIAJA Bipartisan Infrastructure Law FY26 annual entitlement in the amount of $1,282,500. The grant requires a 5% match of $67,500, which will be funded using already budgeted airport facility charge funds and state grant funds. The grant funds will be used to purchase a new airport rescue firefighting truck. B, accept the low bid received from Oshkosh Airport Products in the amount of $1,075,095 for the new ARFF truck. And if accepted, C, approve a purchase agreement with Oshkosh Airport Products in the amount of $1,075,095 to purchase the ARFF truck, and approve informal amendment of projects and grants of up to 15% as allowed by the FFA for necessary change orders or unforeseen costs, subject to legal department review.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move that we approve agenda item number 12, items A through C as outlined, and authorize the mayor's signature on all pertinent documents subject to legal department review.
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a first from Councilman Bates and a second from Councilwoman Satterfield. Brianna, please call the roll.
Bates,
Yes.
Satterfield,
Yes.
Nichols,
Yes.
Paulson,
Yes.
Swanson.
Yes.
Agenda item 13, Airport Grant Application, FAA AIP FY26 Entitlement Funds. Council may wish to approve a grant application to the FFA for airport improvement projects, FY26 Program Entitlement Funds in the amount of $1,200,000. And if awarded, authorize acceptance of the grant and authorize the mayor's signature on all pertinent documents, subject to legal department review. The funds will be used for final design for the rehabilitation of runway 321 and final design of the reconfiguration of taxiway A in order to conform with FAA standards. The required 5% match of $63,158 will be funded with budgeted airport PFC funds and state grant funds and is subject to informal amendment up to 15% as allowed by the FFA for necessary change orders and unforeseen costs, subject to legal department review. How would you like to proceed, council members?
Mayor,
Yes.
I motion to accept agenda item number 13, airport grant application, as listed.
Second.
Okay, we have a first from Councilwoman Satterfield, a second from Councilman Paulson. Brianna, please call the roll.
Satterfield,
Yes.
Paulson?
Yes.
Bates?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Swanson?
Yes.
Agenda item 14, resolution/airport lease agreement, Rocky Mountain Investing LLC. Council may wish to adopt a resolution and approve a lease agreement with Rocky Mountain Investing LLC for approximately 13,000 square feet of property at the airport, upon which they will build an aircraft hangar. The lease term will be 30 years, and the rental rate will be $4,004 per year, with an annual CPI increase and full rate review every 5 years, and authorize the mayor's signature on all pertinent documents, subject to legal department review.
Mr. Mayor? I
Yes.
move we approve agenda item 14, resolution airport lease agreement with Rocky Mountain Investing LLC as written.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a first from Councilwoman Swanson, a second from Councilman Bates. Aubriana, please call the roll.
Swanson?
Yes.
Bates?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Paulson?
Yes.
Satterfield?
Yes.
Agenda item 15, surplus and sale of seized assets, Police Department. Council may wish to approve the following requests from the Pocatello Police Department, subject to legal department review. A, declare 2 vehicles as surplus, which were seized during ongoing investigations. The vehicles have been adjudicated and awarded to the Police Department by the Bannock County Prosecutor's Office in accordance with asset forfeiture laws. And B, authorize the sale of the vehicles through auction and authorize the mayor's signature on all pertinent documents.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
move to approve agenda item number 15 as listed.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a first from Councilman Nichols, a second from Councilwoman Satterfield. Aubriana, please call the roll.
Nichols?
Yes.
Satterfield?
Yes.
Bates?
Yes.
Paulson?
Yes.
Swanson?
Yes.
Agenda item 17, bid acceptance for environmental hazard abatement work. Okay, I apologize, I skipped 16. So 16 is trade and purchase of firearms and accessories for the police department. Council may wish to consider the police department's recommendation and accept a quote from Javelin Arms, a law enforcement dealer, for the following. A, declare items as surplus and authorize the trade-in of used pilot patrol rifles, duty handguns, optics, surplus ammunition, and suppressors. B, declare items as surplus and authorize the trade-in of firearms that have been transferred from the Idaho State Police and firearms that have been removed from evidence in accordance with Idaho Code and Police Department policy. C, authorize the purchase of new department firearms and accessories from Javelin Arms and authorize the mayor's signature on all pertinent documents, subject to legal department review.
Mayor, I move that we approve agenda item number 16, items A through C as outlined.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a first from Councilman Bates, a second from Councilwoman Swanson. Aubriana, please call the roll.
Bates?
Yes.
Swanson?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Paulson?
Yes.
Satterfield?
Yes.
Agenda item 17 is the bid acceptance for environmental hazards abatement work at 429 Washington Avenue. Council may wish to accept the lowest responsive bid for asbestos and related abatement work at city-owned facility located at 429 Washington Avenue and award the bid to Safe Tech, Inc. If approved, the disposition of the property and the subsequent contracts will be brought before the council at a future regular city council meeting. Funding for the abatement is available from the Building Abatement Fund.
Mayor,
Yes.
I move to approve agenda item number 17 as outlined.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, I think I heard a first from Councilman Paulson and a second from Councilwoman Swanson. Aubriana, please call the roll.
Paulson?
Yes.
Swanson?
Yes.
Bates?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Satterfield?
Yes.
Okay, agenda item 18 is ordinance, an ordinance amending sections of Title 17 zoning regulations to remove redundancies, provide clarity, and improve the function of the title.
Mayor,
Yes.
I move agenda item 18 be read only by title and placed on final passage for publication, and that only the ordinance summary sheet be submitted for publication.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, we have a first from Councilman Paulson, a second from Councilwoman Swanson. Brianna, please call the roll.
Paulson?
Yes.
Swanson?
Yes.
Bates?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Satterfield?
Yes.
All right, Jared, it's all you.
Okay. Jared, if you could please read the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Pocatello, a municipal corporation of Idaho, amending sections of Title 17 zoning regulations of the revised and compiled ordinances of the City of Pocatello, specifically amending Chapter 17.01 General Provisions, 17.03 Zoning Districts, 17.05 Development Standards, and 17.06 Special Use Standards to remove redundancies, provide clarity, and improve the function of the title, and providing that this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law.
Thank you, and if I can reach my gavel, I declare that the final reading of the ordinance shall the ordinance pass.
Bates?
Yes.
Nichols?
Yes.
Paulson?
Yes.
Satterfield?
Yes.
Swanson?
Yes.
Thank you. And I believe that is it for the ordinance. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.